Hey there, welcome to Main Street Living. I'm Cheryl Nelson.
Hey, I'm Quincy Carr.
And I'm Danielle Alvari.
Hey guys, how's it going this week?
Hey, going well. I think I changed. Well, I brought Dr. Kim back. I don't know if y'all remember Dr.
We
Kim.
appreciate
Tree thing.
I was
Huh?
Is it real?
Is it real? Probably not. She hasn't had water since I've owned her, so no. I seriously doubt it's real. But she was missing me as she was, as I had the lamp in its place, and we all had a good conversation. That's what happens. You talk to objects during quarantine. Yes.
Oh boy. All right, Quincy.
Yeah.
Well, it sounds like you need a vacation, and I think a lot of us probably could use one. But I got to ask you guys, how do you feel about air travel right now? I know some states are lifting restrictions slowly but surely, and people are starting to fly again. But how do you guys feel about that?
Danielle,
Well,
I know you flew recently.
I did, yeah. My best friend just had her second baby, so I had to go treat them like my own children. So I had to go meet the new baby. But it was interesting because I don't know if you experienced this when you flew, but for LAX, for Los Angeles, it's required masks pretty much everywhere you go, through the airport, on the airplane. But when I landed, I flew to St. Louis, and when I landed, about half the people in the airport were wearing a mask and half weren't. So it's kind of like, do we wear this? Do we not? And so it's interesting how, like, I'm sure different airports have different guidelines in different states. So it's almost like you don't know what's going to happen when you land, what the rules are.
Yeah, that's kind of scary too. I mean, because I know a lot of places will say required, others will say recommended. So recommended, I feel like it's kind of a free-for-all, do whatever you want. I mean, Quincy, what are your thoughts?
I'm just looking for the cheapest plane tickets when I need to fly. Look, I'm supposed to be going to a football and an NFL game like sometime in, I think, September. So I'm looking for the cheapest tickets I think you can get.
Where are you going?
Well, it'll probably be a Cleveland Browns game because they're playing our division this year. The AFC North is playing the NFC East. So, yeah. So we're thinking about going up there, but at the same time, it's like, let me check these tickets out. But from what I understand, you don't have to worry about if you have to cancel your flight because they're allowing out to a year or up to a year. Right.
Yeah. That's good news. But is the football game going to happen? Are they going to allow fans? We don't know.
I don't know yet. I don't know yet, but for what I understand, the tickets are also refundable if that gets closed out. So
yeah, well,
I'm looking for the cheapest.
That a lot of us are getting back to somewhat of a normal when it comes to flying. But get this, Bloomberg reported research from the International Air Transportation Association. 45% of people are willing to fly within 2 months of restrictions lifting. That's right now. In April, 60% were willing to fly. So people are actually getting more cautious, believe it or not.
Interesting.
Yeah, I would imagine so, especially since, in the last few weeks, people are noticing more and more cases are going back up again since they've gone into the different phases. So, yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's crazy. But at the same time, I think I'm willing to do it. Air travel bookings are actually down 82% from a year ago. But I'm hoping for, the sake of the economy that all this starts to come back up.
Well, we have a lot of stuff in today's show that's going to kind of answer some of these questions, right? I know coming up, we're going to be talking with an NFL agent. I know that at Cheryl, you're going to have a talk with someone about masks, right? When to wear them.
Absolutely. So yeah, you get the lowdown on that.
Yeah, might find a lot of answers on today's show.
Yeah, and we're also doing, I believe a therapy, almost a therapy segment.
Just not a time.
Yes, you said.
Plug it. Plug it, Quincy. Is that your segment? Is that your segment?
I know you're talking to trees, objects.
I need help.
What is that?
Oh my gosh. But yeah, it's definitely going to be a great show. So I can't wait. I can't wait to get things going.
Welcome back to Main Street Living. So for all of our sports fans, this next interview might get you excited for a possible NFL season coming up. Joining us right now, we have Molly McManamy, NFL player agent and VP of Client Services for Carrick Sports based out of Las Vegas. Molly, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
So Molly, tell me, how has work changed for you as an agent? Are you working from home?
I am. It's nice. Our job can be done virtually anywhere. So we've been able to do everything we normally do. We're very fortunate in that regard. As a company, we had a really good off season. We had a great free agency, which we were thankful that the NFL let that go forward as normal. And then the draft went really well for us. So it's been weird being at home all the time and not in the office, but we've been fortunate that everything we normally do, we can still do.
Very exciting. And obviously the NFL, compared to some of the other leagues, seems like they've been moving forward, assuming there's going to be a season and that things are going to go as planned. How has the COVID sort of affected the NFL season so far? I mean, it sounds like the draft kind of went pretty much as normal.
It did, yeah. For us, we're normally back here. I'm based in Vegas, and we're normally back here anyway, unless you have a client invited to the first round. So that was pretty normal for us, and I think they did a really good job keeping things feeling pretty normal from home for fans, for the players. We had a conference call with all the agents on Monday and the Players Association talking about the protocols they're putting into place and kind of the plan moving forward. They do seem like the league that's been the most, we're going to do this one way or another, but that's kind of the well as it is. So for now, they're just trying to really figure out the safest way. They didn't say, fans or no fans yet, but they were just explaining to us testing protocol and kind of their hope for how they'll safely get guys back in at the end of July.
Are they thinking that they're going to be able to have an audience, have a crowd at these games?
They didn't really tell us. Knowing the NFL, I think they will do whatever they can to make that happen. I think that it might be at a lower capacity, but just seeing some of the things they're talking about with the new stadiums here in Vegas and in LA, it seems like they are planning on at least some audience, but that's obviously subject to change, especially with everything changing, minute by minute with this stuff.
Absolutely. And as an agent, has any of your clients, have they reached out to you and had any specific questions related to COVID or how it's going to impact the season or impact them personally?
Yeah, I mean, if a season were to not get played, the big question is, do we get paid? So that's the big question for all the clients, and especially the rookies who typically would have already been in mini camp, would have already gone through the off-season program. They're a little bit behind in that regard. So they have a lot of questions, but the veterans pretty much know if we can get back into training camp on time, which is usually the end of July anyway, that things will go on as planned. But they're mostly concerned, about their safety, but also their paychecks.
Obviously.
Yeah.
Right. I think a lot of Americans can relate to that right now. All very concerned with our paychecks.
Yes.
So assuming there will actually be a season, what are you most looking forward to this season?
Well, I had my first personal draft pick this draft, so I'm excited to go see him play. He was drafted by the Chargers, so it'll be super fun to go to the new stadium out there. But selfishly, I'm in Vegas. I've been watching the stadium from the start get built. I am so excited to see a game played there. My dad actually lives walking distance from it, so I'm excited to take him to a game and to not have to travel every weekend to games like I normally do, because now we have a stadium in our backyard.
So you guys are going to be Raiders fans then?
I wouldn't take it that far. My company has season tickets, and when we have clients play here, we'll get tickets from them. So I will be at a lot of games, and it'll be good for the city for the Raiders to be good. So to that extent, yes, Raiders fans.
Of course. And I have to go back and ask you. Oh, there we go. I have to go back and ask you about your first official client this year. I know you mentioned went to the Chargers. I think as a UCLA fan, went to UCLA. This is going to be someone that I'm really excited to watch as well.
Yeah. If you're a UCLA fan, you know who Joshua Kelly is, and he's the most phenomenal kid out there. I actually have another client, John LeGlue, who's on the Packers right now. So he was actually my first active client last year, but he went undrafted. Super proud of him as well for all of his hard work. But yeah, Josh getting drafted to the Chargers in his hometown, the whole story was just super serendipitous and incredible.
Right. Well, that's good. It's good to see that COVID didn't rain on his parade or affect anything for him. But
nothing Josh's parade.
I know, right? Probably the most positive athlete I've seen. Maybe Jonathan Franklin, but from UCLA, yes, very positive.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Molly. You're a wealth of knowledge. We really appreciate you coming on, and we're looking forward to hopefully an NFL season.
Yes. Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right, guys. Well, coming up next, if there is no NFL season, we have some anger issues. We're going to show you some healthy ways to deal with them. Just stick with us.
Welcome back to Main Street Living. Well, guys, over the last few weeks, emotions have been flying, and rightfully so.
Absolutely, Cheryl. In fact, recently David Chappelle released a new comedy special, but, coming from a person in that same profession and also feeling the effects of these turbulent times, it sure felt like we were watching like a therapy session, right? So,
yeah.
Much needed.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and in fact, our next guest is with us today is Nancy Ryan. She's a licensed marriage family therapist, certified Gottman therapist, and CEO of the Relationship Therapy Center. Welcome to the show there, Nancy.
Hi, thanks so much for having me.
Absolutely. Well, the first thing I notice in your background, you have love. That is what we need, period. Love to calm things down. How can you how do you explain people trying to cope with these recent tragedies, including the death of George Floyd and COVID-19?
Yeah, and I think what we were seeing with COVID-19 is a lot of anxiety and people kind of trapped in place, a lack of community, if you will. And then we saw the horrific death of George Floyd, and it just brought, I think, a sense of community to people in some way. There was such a sense of powerlessness and outrage that it connected people in some ways.
Yeah. Especially when you see something as visual as that, and then it gets played out, and then there's a lot of a good section of people who had never seen that, and then there was a section of us who had always seen images of that, and it just gets ignored. So, why do you think it's so upsetting to so many people, and they're not even personally connected to the victim?
Yeah, and I think there is, that was so visual and so graphic, and COVID-19, although that seemed to kind of split the country to some degree in a lot of ways. And this was just, I think it's a sense of anger, of powerlessness. So we've been powerless through the COVID-19, and then seeing this, I think people feel like they can come to the anger is motivating them to some kind of resolution. Right? It's like, okay, we can do something about this. And so you're seeing people all over the place jump on this where they might not have before. So
right.
It's a good thing, really.
Yeah. And the fact that, people all over, not just in the United States, but all over the world have been moved to protest. So, is that a certain trigger because of what has happened that just moved people who hadn't been affected to start protesting?
Yeah, it is the sense of, I think, what do we do with our anger? That drives people angry. And if you're on social media today, there is all kinds of anger being processed. It's so funny that you mentioned my sign, because I'll just say, I choose love. Like behind every argument, I choose love, right? Because it's just polarizing for everybody. So I think part of the protests are bringing people together, but it's something we can do with our anger. Right? In peaceful protests and making changes that are effective, I think, are really what's needed now.
Right. How can we, channel our anger in ways that can produce results, either in society or within ourselves?
Yeah. So anger is an emotion, and there's nothing wrong with anger. And I think it's what we do with the anger that becomes the problem. And so feeling the anger and in ourselves personally and figuring out a way to process that, which can be physical exercise. It's an emotion that needs to move through the body, or a punching bag, or writing things down. But when it's used to attack other people or do things that are destructive, it's not helping anybody. So I think if you can mobilize it, like I think about Mark Klass when his daughter was murdered, like he became a child advocate. He helped change the law. He started speaking out for other people that had tragedies happen. And he used that anger and that outrage in a positive way. I'd love to see more people doing that than just screaming and yelling at each other or hurting each other.
Absolutely, and that is definitely the solution. And before we go, how can people contact you for more information or just for a therapy session? Because I feel like just how smooth your voice is, I feel calm right now.
Good. I have that effect on people. So you can visit us at therelationshiptherapycenter.com. And if you're in California, we see people virtually all over.
Awesome. Well, Nancy, thank you so much for being part of the show today. And we definitely look for people to keep sharing love like you have behind you. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
All right.
Quincy, I was thinking the same thing. Her voice is so soothing. And I'm going, can you be my therapist?
All right. Well, coming up, something that's not super soothing for everybody, wearing a mask. When are we supposed to be wearing a mask? I think there's a lot of miscommunication, so we need to know. So stick around.
Welcome back to Main Street Living. Well, we are all adapting to a new normal, and that includes wearing masks. But there's been a lot of confusion surrounding masks. Do we wear them? Do we not? Do they really help? Our next guest is an expert on this, and we want to bring in Dr. Josette Gordon-Simmet right now, and she's the Chief Medical Officer at Think Whole Person Healthcare. Thanks for being with us today.
Thank you, Cheryl, for the invitation. I appreciate that.
Of course. So I think back to several months ago when the pandemic started, and we were advised not to wear masks unless you were sick because, quote unquote, they don't really help. However, obviously that's changed. Explain the thinking on that.
You bet. And so what we learned here in the United States, looking at other countries globally, we've learned a lot from the experiences in China as well as in Italy. And the one thing that the country of China did that seemed to make a difference was the mandatory use of masks that forced the curve of the continuous increase to begin to decline. And thus, we began adapting that. Unfortunately, we started the continuous use of masks a little later in the game, but certainly was a good thing that we did start it. Unfortunately, as you know, across the country, there were many cities that experienced a surge and a high number of deaths. We have learned lessons since we recognize the impact and significance of this pandemic over the last several months. And so at this point, we are recommending mask use to be continued.
Okay, so I see some places say masks required, others they say masks recommended. So, I mean, what do you say? Are you saying people should wear them all the time, no matter where you are? And I know obviously restaurants, it's going to be hard to do.
Absolutely. So as a medical professional, I will tell you that ethically, I and other medical professionals are committed to the health of our patients and the well-being of our society. And so we definitely recommend maintaining social distancing because we know that the virus is spread through respiratory droplets that can travel several feet. It is important because we know there are several risk factors, health conditions that increases your risk. We know there are asymptomatic individuals who may unknowingly transmit the virus. Actually, in yesterday's New England Journal of Medicine, there was an article describing a potential link between blood types, possibly identifying someone who may be at risk for developing symptoms related to COVID. More to come there, of course, but yes, when you have a chance, New England Journal of Medicine had an article about ABO blood group types, and so that was of interest to me as well. So for businesses who choose to make it mandatory or required, I understand that is a business decision. From a social and public health standpoint, I absolutely recommend masking at all times when out in public spaces.
Yep, that makes sense. And are you allowed to say anything about which blood type might be more susceptible?
You know, I would refer you on to the article. The authors of that article did a really nice job of exploring that. I just found it fascinating, and New England Journal of Medicine has made that publicly available, so you don't need a subscription or anything.
I'm actually making a note of that because it's something I want to check out. Now, here's a question for you. When I wear a mask, I find myself touching my face more than ever because I'm constantly adjusting it. So, I mean, what do people do in this case? There's me on an airplane.
It's best to keep your hands off your face and mouth and eye and nose area in general, because we know that improper hand hygiene can contribute to transmission potentially as well. So what do you do? If you have to adjust, personally, when my mask starts to slip and I need to adjust, I tend to take it at the bottom of my chin and just sort of try to move it up a little bit. I try truly to stay away from the nose and mouth area.
Gotcha. And before we go, I've got one more question for you. I know some people, have COPD or asthma or maybe bad anxiety where they just can't wear a mask and people might be giving them the side eye in public. So what are these people supposed to do?
Absolutely. That is a tough decision. And because I do not have any of those health conditions myself, but as a practitioner who treats individuals with those conditions, I advise my patients, I know this is uncomfortable. I would encourage you to adjust the times that you need to be out to take care of errands or go to appointments, perhaps making them shorter and less frequent, because we know those individuals with those conditions are absolutely at increased risk for COVID infections and secondary complications related to the infections. I would encourage them strongly to wear it.
Very good advice.
It's for their life. It's for their life.
Absolutely. It's so important. Doctor, I could talk with you all day, but we are out of time. Where should people go to learn more about everything we just talked about?
My favorite site, of course, is cdc.org. You're certainly welcome to contact your usual healthcare provider for current and up-to-date information.
Perfect.
cdc.org, I would absolutely support and recommend.
All right. Thank you so much. A lot more ahead on Main Street Living. In fact, we've all been sitting at home for months. Are you dealing with the quarantine 15? I'm talking about weight. Yeah, we will help you shed a few pounds coming up.
Welcome back to Main Street Living. So speaking of welcoming back, I don't know if you guys know this, but I'm also a personal trainer. I'm a coach. So I'm excited to be welcomed back to the gym soon because I think we all can't wait to get back in the gym.
Danielle, I did not know that about you. And as a personal trainer, your phone's going to be ringing off the hook with requests because we've all been sitting around, haven't been working out. A lot of people have put on the quarantine 15, and I'm talking about weight here. And if you have, you're not alone. But watch this. This next segment will help you maybe shed a few pounds.
What's up, Main Street Living? My name is Robert Brix Glover. I'm a fitness entrepreneur, a trainer, and a YouTuber. And in 2013, I lost over 150 pounds, and now it's my life work to show others how to create healthier lifestyles. I know that's been really hard for a lot of people to do lately due to the pandemic. With the gyms being closed for months, a lot of people are packing on extra pounds. And that extra weight is what many people in the fitness industry are calling the quarantine 15. Now, trust me, even I've fallen off a bit. I've been eating out of boredom, and I'm not always filling up to working out. And I believe the best way to combat this quarantine 15 and to keep it off, you need three things. You need accountability, you need some nutrition guidance, and you need help from an expert. And that's exactly why I created the Brix Fitness Insiders, which is an exclusive group where I give people healthy recipes, easy to follow 30-minute workouts, and a whole crew to keep you focused. We have over 100 members, and they all push each other towards greatness. And it doesn't have to be the Brix Fitness Insiders, but I believe you need a community of like-minded people to help you lose weight. Working out doesn't have to be hard, and you don't have to spend a ton of time working out, but you do have to make that time worth it. So right now I'm going to show you 4 basic exercises that you can do to lose weight, and I tell everyone to start with these basic movements: the modified push-up, the bent over row, the plank, and the squat. I have a video on YouTube where I explain each exercise in detail with modifications. Go ahead and check that out when you get a chance. I know a lot of us are struggling with eating healthy right now. A quick tip to help you manage your weight is to eat at least one big salad a day. I've been doing this every day, and it has been a game changer for me. I usually put in a lean protein and a light dressing. Also, instead of chips or cookies, I grab a high protein snack or some fruit. I truly believe that we can come out of this pandemic healthier and stronger. It's just going to take some intention, focusing on your goals, and putting in a little extra effort. If you feel like you need some help, please find a trainer that offers online services and an accountability group. Or you can just join the Brix Fitness Insiders, where everyone in the crew is supporting each other, keeping each other accountable, and sharing the wellness.
Wow.
Quincy, where do you get all this stuff?
Hashtag inspired.
Yeah. Did you see the muscles on that dude? I'm trying to compete with him. Give me 1 second.
Oh, they're growing.
The fact that I'm not even impressed by necessarily his actual physical muscles, that he has the mental strength to pick fruit over chips.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Nope.
Right.
That's where the real battle happens. That's where the real battles happen. Yeah.
You gotta have that crunch.
Yeah, you do have to have the crunch. Now, one thing that I will say is continuing to working out the body. Okay, up next, we're actually talking virtual tumbling. I don't even know what that is, but we'll be right back, and I'll find out after the break. Hey, welcome back to Main Street Living. Hey, Danielle, quick question. Since you were a cheerleader, were you the flipper, the spotter,
A dolphin?
or a flipper, right? Ain't that what
Like a dolphin? Like a dolphin?
it's not called a flipper?
A tumbler? A tumbler? Yeah. Well, yeah, I did it all. You had to be all around. That's how UCLA does it. I like to be all around. But
you put him in his place, Danielle.
Yeah, and apparently this guest couldn't have come at a better time, because Quincy needs to buff up on his cheerleading knowledge. So joining us now, we have Ashley Leilani. So she is a U.S. All-Star Federation certified coach and a SAG-AFTRA stunt performer. Ashley, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
So Ashley, I happen to jump right into probably one of the most interesting jobs somebody could have, being a stunt woman. So tell us about the projects you've been working on lately. Tell us what it's like to be a stunt woman.
Well, lately it's a little slow. However, before that, my latest project is All-Star Weekend. It's a film with Jamie Foxx, and it's actually about sports. So it's really exciting, and it was a really fun experience. And with my gymnastics background, it was the perfect role for me.
What kind of is your gymnastics background?
Well, I started basically doing gymnastics before I started running. So when I started walking, I started. My mom was a coach, so I've been doing it for a very long time.
Wow. So what did you get to do in the film?
Well, it's a little bit of a secret, but I will have to say that there was a lot of acrobatics involved. There was a pool involved, and a little bit of jumping and flipping into that pool.
All right, so that's something we can look forward to seeing. We'll try to keep our eye out for you when that comes out. Obviously, like you mentioned, things have sort of slowed down. How has COVID kind of affected that side of the industry for you?
Well, for cheerleading specifically, it's a very hands-on sport. So from a coach that is spotting tumbling to the actual athletes that are stunting and holding feet and lifting, it's a contact sport. And so that, of course, stopped immediately. We're in the middle of the season. And so all these teams that we had, going to Orlando every year for Worlds and Summit, all of that stopped, and that was canceled. And so that was a big deal in the cheer world. But for me, I decided, well, no better way than to start doing virtual classes than now. So that's what I did.
Made some lemonade with the lemons. So how have you been able to adapt your business? What are you doing? Are you doing virtual lessons? How are you keeping all those skills up?
Yeah, so just like a lot of sports, it's a year-round sport. So if these kids are not being active during this time, when they make it back to the gym, they're prone to injury, and they also will lose a lot of skills. So I do private lessons. I do special courses like flyer class, jump class. I do the 4 to 7-year-old classes, in addition to conditioning and flexibility and stability and just overall body awareness. I do classes Monday through Friday, and I do private lessons. Wow. I've done over 70 sessions over the past 10 weeks. So,
and how popular have they been? You said you've been getting more people every week?
Every single week, I have new people coming in. I did a survey, and parents are wanting it till at least the end of summer. So that's amazing. That means that these kids are wanting to be active and they're wanting to still keep their skills up. And for parents to have the opportunity for their kids to be doing things like this, I just think it's amazing.
And are they the kids from all over the country? Or I know you're based in Southern California or Los Angeles.
Yes, I have kids. I have Colorado kids. I have kids from Missouri. I have a handful from Florida. So yeah, they're from all over the place.
That's awesome. Is there any specific skill level they need to participate?
No, I have everyone from beginners. I've had girls contact me through Instagram being like, I've never done this before, but I would love to try it. And so they've joined in. All of my classes are from the beginners all the way up to level 5, 6, 7 athletes that come and join.
Wow. And so they can do it from anywhere.
Yeah, no equipment is required. I have over 100 drills that I like to cycle through in each of the classes. And I have a tumbling class specifically on Tuesdays. And I have kids that are learning handstands, and I have kids that have standing fulls. So all of these are helping body awareness and keeping up, the musculature that you need for all these skills.
And lastly, before we go, just as your background as a gymnast, what kind of advice can you give to these kids who are either a higher level or maybe just starting out?
My biggest advice is just have goals and work towards them. Because if you have nothing that you're striving for, what do you know? Whenever kids do not have goals, I'm just like, I don't know how to help you. So create goals, make baby steps towards them, and then go and achieve them.
I think you're a parent's godsend right now, because I know that they have the kids cooped up in the house. A lot of them are coming up on summer break. It feels like they've already been on summer break. So this is a great opportunity. We have all your info down there in case anybody wants to sign up. It's a great way, I'm sure, for kids to be active, especially during this pandemic. So Ashley, thank you so much for joining us today. We appreciate it.
Yes, thank you so much.
I think I'm gonna pretend I'm a kid and sign up. Maybe she won't.
Oh yeah,
but that looks really, really cool. So speaking of cool, I don't know if you guys played with a certain item when you were a kid. We're gonna talk to an artist who uses something that you probably used outside. We'll get more about that coming up.
I hope it's a skip it.
Welcome back to Main Street Living. Guys, I got to tell you, one of the most exciting times in my life when I was a kid is when my parents got our driveway paved and then bought us some chalk, because then I could make some chalk art. Now, I was no good at it, but I know our next guest is amazing.
Absolutely, Cheryl. Imagine being known all over the world for the art that you create under your feet, right? Well, our next guest, very talented chalk artist, David Zinn, is here to show us how he got that title. Welcome to the show, David. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks very much.
Wonderful, man. Tell us a little bit about the art that you create.
Well, essentially, I draw creatures on the sidewalk with chalk and charcoal. Then I take photographs of them that look real from specific angles, and then the art washes away.
So, it just disappears, and you're not upset that all the work that you just put down is gone? Like, it doesn't bother you at all?
In fact, I've drawn so many things in my own neighborhood that if those things hadn't washed away, I would have no place left to draw, because I would have drawn on every square foot of my neighborhood. So I've drawn in the same place several times. So it has to wash away.
Nice. And these photos are really showing a lot, like, how are you inspired to create like a certain image in a certain space? Because I know it takes a little bit of, that moment where you think about it and okay, it's this, and I'm going for it.
Well, oddly enough, it's easier on the sidewalk because there's always something that's already there. Drawing on a blank piece of paper, you could draw anything at all, which is actually kind of paralyzing because there's so many choices you could make and so many choices you might wish you hadn't made. But on the sidewalk, there's always something there to play with, which is actually better for your imagination, which is why, as you can see from some of these pictures, usually in every one of my drawings, something was there before I started. And that was the off point.
That is amazing, man. Like, what are some of your favorite recurring characters that you may draw?
Well, for some reason, I do draw this green monster with the eyes on stalks quite a lot. His name is Sluggo. He's known all over the world. He has his own Facebook page with about 5,000 friends.
That's more than me.
See, there you go. He's very popular. And he actually started out as a very bad drawing of a human child. It was a drawing that went so badly
Yeah.
Until I realized he didn't want to be a human child. He wanted to be Sluggo. And as soon as I made him Sluggo, he was perfectly happy to be there.
Yeah. Well, I see clearly that you enjoy making art that disappears, but how much more different is that for an artist that wants their stuff to stay?
Well, I think the main thing about temporary art is that it actually takes away a lot of the stuff that keeps people from making art, including professionals, because normally when you sit down to make a piece of art, it's hard not to think about what you're going to do with it when it's finished. Are you going to keep it? Are you going to hang it in your house? Are you going to give it to your mom? Are you going to try to sell it to somebody? If you can't sell it to somebody, are you going to put it in your attic? And eventually, is your attic going to be full of art and you can't make any more art until you clean your attic? These are all distractions from the joy of just making art.
Yeah.
So actually not being able to take it home is great because you make the art, you enjoy making the art, and then you go make more art. And you don't have to worry about anything else. You don't have to frame it. You don't have to store it. You don't have to sell it. You just enjoy making it.
Now, that's also interesting as well, because you also have some of your work in books. Now, can you talk a little bit about that?
Well, that is what almost feels like cheating, because I don't keep the art, but I do keep the photographs. And so the photographs now I can put into books and sell prints of the photographs, and I put them on tote bags and things. And the book is the most recent collection of the photographs I've taken of my drawings, which I think is very important, because I originally started drawing on the sidewalk as an excuse to get away from my computer and go outside.
Yeah.
So now if the main way people see my drawings is by sitting at a computer, that seems to be a sad outcome, because now they have to sit at a computer because I didn't want to. So it's good to have them in a book, because the book you can take outside, the book you can read in a hammock, the book you can doodle on yourself if you feel like it.
Nice. And lastly, before we run out of time here, why do we need more art, art more than ever during these turbulent times?
Well, I think it's important to realize that one thing maybe human beings are particularly special about is that we don't just fix problems. We also joke about them. We make up songs about them. I think that's how we share our feelings about going through our problems. So while the smart part of our brains are fixing them and coming up with solutions, art helps us cope. And you have to be able to cope in order to fix your problems, because you have to be able to imagine a world that is better before you can even start to think about how you're going to get there.
Now, how about that, David, man? Thank you very much. You painted a beautiful picture of how we can continue to create love and create art ourselves. And so we certainly appreciate you stopping by here at Main Street Living. Thank you.
Thanks for having me. It was a lot of fun.
Absolutely. Yeah, it was pretty cool.
Yeah. Wow, Quincy. What a cool interview. It's inspired me. I'm gonna have to go buy some chalk. I hope my neighbors appreciate my chalk drawings outside. It's, they're gonna have to trust the process.
I'm sure they will.
Coming up, we got more Main Street Living, so don't go anywhere.
Welcome back to Main Street Living.
You know what? I was just thinking about something. It was a great show. We got a lot of information, but we were talking off camera about goals. And I think that would be cool to share with our viewers. Can I go first on my goal for next week?
I wish you would. I wish you would.
My goal is my goal for next week is to be able to walk past a bag of chips and not pick fruit over the bag of chips.
Pick fruit?
No. I mean, pick the fruit. It was something that Brix said.
Is this your first time making a goal, Quincy? It's your first time setting a goal?
Yes.
I would do that too. I'll pick the chips over the fruit. Gotta have that punch. That's so satisfying there.
Cheryl, what's your goal? All
right. For me, I used to work out and go to the gym a lot. Hasn't happened. So I would like to go, and this is, better than zero. I would like to go to the gym twice.
I think that's great. Yeah.
Twice. We'll try that. How about you?
Baby steps. I think my goal is to start reading a book. I need to get some more reading in before all this lockdown is over. So start reading a book. I got sent some books from one of our guests, so I'm excited to kind of bust one of these open.
Nice.
I'm not going to give you a page goal. I'm just going to say my goal is to start it. It's to start.
Yeah, that's reading. I don't think I've read a book since high school. I'm not kidding. And
all right,
don't have the time. So on that note, we're going to end things right here. So
speaking of not having time,
thanks for watching our show. So you can catch new episodes of Main Street Living 9 p.m. weekdays every Monday. So make sure you join us next time as we take a stroll down Main Street.
Bye.